You wake up to the smell of old sweat, goat dung, and onions. That's your version of fresh morning air in 5th century BC Athens. The straw beneath you is moist with your own fever sweat, and there's a crusted trail of something unpleasant on your tunic. You think it might be vomit, but then again, it could also be medicine. In ancient Greece, the line between cure and curse is thin, and usually smells like vinegar mixed with sheep urine. You try to sit up, but your head lags behind like it's tied to a stone. Congratulations, you're sick. Again. Maybe it's the ague. Maybe it's the flux. Maybe it's just Tuesday. In this era, medicine is more philosophy than science, and your local physician believes illness comes from an imbalance of the 4 humors: black bile, yellow bile, blood, and phlegm. You don't know what any of them are. You just know they all end up on your sheets outside the city groans to life. The sound of wooden wheels on dirt, the bray of donkeys, a neighbor hawking phlegm and shouting something about olives. You try to swallow, but your throat feels like it's lined with gravel. You would like a drink of water, but your clay jug is dry and cracked. You don't dare ask your wife for more. She's still angry that you threw up in the communal amphora last night. It was an honest mistake. You were delirious and thought it was your chamber pot. Honest. You hear the scrape of sandals approaching. It's the oiatros, the doctor. He doesn't knock. Privacy isn't a concept here. He's wearing the same woolen robe as yesterday, now with more stains, and he smells like a herbalist got into a bar fight with a goat. He squints at you and immediately begins explaining that your symptoms are due to an excess of heat in the liver. His treatment plan is simple: bleeding, fasting, and perhaps some crushed beetles mixed with honey. This is how healthcare works in ancient Greece, confidently wrong and enthusiastically unsanitary. The doctor sets down a brass bowl and produces a sharpened bronze scalpel. He doesn't wash his hands. You don't even think the concept of germs will be invented for another 2,000 years. He opens a vein in your arm with the calmness of someone slicing bread. You stare at the bowl as your blood pools inside it, swirling like bad wine. You feel dizzy, but that might just be because you've eaten nothing but barley mash and disappointment for 2 days. After the bloodletting, he hands you a poultice made from moldy bread and tells you to apply it to your chest. You're pretty sure the bread is just old food he repurposed from his own kitchen. He says it'll draw out the poison. It draws out the flies instead. Later, you shuffle outside. The sun hits your eyes like a hammer. Your neighbors, always helpful, avoid eye contact like you're already a corpse. The agora is bustling, but you're too weak to beg the gods at the temple. Besides, you did that yesterday. The priest said the gods were probably punishing you for impiety, bad thoughts, or not sacrificing enough doves. You would have argued, but your mouth was full of bile at the time. You sit on a broken stone wall and stare into the dusty street. A dog walks by with something vaguely human in its mouth. No one reacts. This is Athens. Life is short, death is certain, and dogs do as they please. Your clothes are wool, itchy, and stained with your own regrets. The tunic sticks to your skin where the fever sweat hasn't yet dried. You wish for a bath, But water is a luxury, and hot water is a myth. Bathing, when it happens, is communal and awkward. Besides, some philosophers think bathing too often weakens the body. You think they're just lazy. You hobble back home, where the smell of garlic and damp stone hits you again like a wet cloth. You lie back on your straw mat, which crouches suspiciously. The floor is hard, the room is dark, and the only illumination comes from a smoking oil lamp that spits ash like a cranky god. Your wife drops a bowl of lentil mush beside you without a word. It tastes like chalk and despair. You nod in gratitude. This is marital affection. Ancient Greek style. As night falls, the city quiets, mostly. Somewhere nearby, a man is shouting about debt. Another sings off-key about victory in war. Someone coughs wetly for several minutes. You pull a coarse wool blanket over yourself and try not to think about what lies in the straw beneath you. Your fever returns just as you close your eyes. You feel it behind your eyes, pulsing. The doctor said you might hallucinate. You wonder what that will be like. You think you see a shadow moving across the wall, but maybe it's the lamp, or maybe it's something else. In the stillness, your mind drifts. You wonder if Hippocrates would call this a crisis point, or if he'd just bleed you again for good measure. The wind shifts, and from far off you hear the shriek of someone else waking from a fever dream, or maybe dying from one. You pull the blanket closer and think, maybe tomorrow you'll be better. Or maybe you won't wake up at all. But before the thought settles, your stomach cramps. You remember what the doctor said earlier. The beetle honey. You try to sit up again. You vomit beetles into a clay bowl. Well, you hope it's the bowl. In the dark, it's hard to tell. It might be your wife's weaving basket. She's going to be furious. Your body convulses again, purging everything it can. The mix of beetle honey, lentils, and bile hits your nose with a scent that can only be described as mythological punishment. You lean over and retch again, and this time, you're sure you hear something crunch. Morning creeps into your home like an uninvited cousin. Dim, damp, and smelling of mold. You're curled on the floor now, too weak to crawl back to your mat. The fire died hours ago. Your breath puffs visibly in the cold air. The smell of your sickness mingles with the familiar must of goat hair and charcoal. It's a symphony of suffering, a morning concert for one. You manage to sit up, barely, your head pounding in rhythm with your heartbeat. Every bone in your spine feels like it's being whittled down by some ancient artisan. Your stomach groans. You haven't kept anything down in 2 days, but that won't stop it from trying. Someone bangs on the door. It's your neighbor, Myron, the one who believes rubbing clay on your feet prevents plague. He says he heard your groaning in the night and brought something to help. It's a jug of vinegar with floating herbs, and what might be a finger bone. You thank him, you drink it. It burns like guilt and tastes like regret. This is the healthcare system in Athens. No hospitals, no nurses, just superstition, strong smells, and the occasional lucky guess. If you want formal care, you go to the temple of Asclepius. If you want to live, you go to bed and hope the gods are bored enough to spare you. You try to stand, and your legs tremble like a new foal's. You lean on the wall, which is made of sun-baked clay, dry and crumbly to the touch. The walls are thin. You can hear everything your neighbors say, especially about you. They think you're cursed. Maybe you are. You limp outside for air. The streets are dust and dung. Children run past you barefoot, laughing, chasing each other with dead frogs. One sneezes violently and keeps running. There's no such thing as cover your mouth in ancient Greece. You pass the market, where merchants sell fish that blink suspiciously and bread that could double as roof tiles. The air smells like brine, sweat, and overripe figs. You pass a man with scaly sores on his arms. No one avoids him. No one says a word. He might be a beggar or a god in disguise. You nod to be safe. You arrive at the temple of Asclepius, the god of healing. The priest outside accepts your offering, a cracked egg and half a coin, and waves you inside. The temple is cooler, darker, and smells of incense and body odor. Sick people lie on stone slabs, moaning softly. Some are sleeping. Some are praying. One is screaming. No one reacts. A priestess gives you a draught of wine mixed with crushed poppy and tells you to lie down and wait for a dream. The god may come, she says. He might whisper your cure in your sleep. Or he might not. Sometimes dreams are just dreams. You lie down on the cold slab and close your eyes. The air is thick with incense smoke and human heat. Someone nearby coughs into the silence. You drift. You dream of snakes. Not normal snakes, bright ones. Golden, with eyes like burning coal. They slither over your chest and into your ears, hissing. One whispers something in a language you almost understand. You wake up gasping. The priestess returns and nods solemnly. The god has visited you, she says. He always comes when there are snakes. You feel worse, but also strangely honored. Outside the temple, the sky has darkened. It's not yet night, but close. You begin the slow walk home. You're weaker now. Everything you see feels slightly tilted, as if the earth is leaning just to annoy you. At home, your wife has set out a small dish: olives, boiled barley, and a bit of pickled radish. The taste is sour, but not unbearable. You chew slowly, wondering if food will stay down this time. It doesn't. Your wife silently hands you the woven basket again. It's clean now. She stopped asking questions. You lie back on the straw mat. The lamp flickers. Shadows crawl across the wall like ghosts. Your fever's back. Everything smells like oil and wool and the faint sweetness of decay. You close your eyes. For a brief moment, you think of the philosophers. Plato says the soul is trapped in the body like a prisoner. Right now, your body feels like a poorly built prison with no plumbing and far too many rats. You hear someone crying in a nearby house. Maybe they're sick too. You wonder how long your illness will last. You wonder if you're dying, and just as sleep begins to pull you under again, you hear a knock at the door, a low, slow knock. You don't remember inviting anyone, but your wife is already getting up. The door creaks open with the sound of dry wood groaning against itself. You lift your head slightly. It's not easy, your neck feels like it's filled with wet sand, but you can just make out the silhouette of a man in the doorway. He's wrapped in a thick wool cloak, face covered, holding a small satchel. He steps inside without greeting, without asking. That's how doctors work here. They come when they hear you might die soon, hoping to be the one who either saves you or gets to explain your death in a long-winded speech full of philosophical metaphors. This man doesn't introduce himself. He smells like camphor, myrrh, and sweat. He looks around, nods once at your wife, and kneels beside you. He opens the satchel. Inside, dried herbs, a bronze spoon, some sheep fat, and what looks like a lump of moldy cheese. He calls it medicine. You suspect it used to be food. He tells you to open your mouth. You do. He drops a spoonful of something thick and rancid onto your tongue. It tastes like despair and burnt socks. He tells you to swallow. You do. Barely. He leans back, watching you with the narrowed eyes of a man who once studied under Hippocrates, and now resents every patient for not dying fast enough. He explains, in that slow, priest-like tone, that disease is a punishment, either from the gods or from your own bad habits. You nod weakly. You're too sick to argue. Also, he's not wrong. You did drink from a public well 3 days ago that had a dead bird floating in it. The physician rises, offers a grunt of something resembling encouragement, and leaves as quietly as he came. Your wife closes the door behind him and mutters something under her breath, possibly a curse, possibly a prayer. In ancient Greece, they're often the same thing. You try to lie still. Your stomach gurgles ominously. You feel a bubble shift in your gut and wonder if it's going to escape through the top or the bottom. Either way, you're prepared to be ashamed. The room is darkening again. Time slips oddly when you're sick. Light becomes a vague suggestion. Hours pass without notice, broken only by waves of nausea or shivering. At one point, you're certain your fingers are moving on their own. At another, you swear you heard a goat singing. Eventually, your wife lights the oil lamp. The room fills with the soft, warm stink of old fat and burning wick. The shadows crawl again, long and thin, stretching across the wall like ghosts trying to escape. Your wife approaches and begins gently wiping your forehead with a cloth dipped in vinegar. It smells sharp, sour, and oddly comforting. Her touch is rough. Affection is not soft in this time, but it's steady. You can tell she's scared, not because you might die, but because she might have to remarry again. Death is common here. So common, it's hardly worth remarking on. But the bureaucracy of death, that's the real headache. Funerals cost money. Mourning has rules. Your wife will have to tear her clothing and wail convincingly in public. She hates wailing. You are suddenly grateful for that. Not for her grief, but that she's thinking ahead. That means she believes there's a chance you won't die. You drift again. In the space between sleep and hallucination, you remember how sickness is handled in the city. There are no hospitals, no clinics, no places with clean sheets and quiet hallways. Just temples, home beds, and alleyways where people pretend not to hear the dying. You remember how people used to blame disease on miasma, bad air, not metaphorically, literally. They believe foul smells cause illness, which is ironic, because if that were true, everyone in this street would be dead by now. And yet, you're still here, breathing, sort of. Your stomach settles for the first time all day. You feel an odd calm, like you're floating slightly above yourself watching your body from a safer distance. The pain softens, not because it's gone, but because you've made space for it, like a roommate who won't leave but at least stopped snoring. Then, outside Mani, the sound of feet. Many feet. You hear shouting, urgent, frantic shouting. Then bells, not temple bells, not warning bells. These are funeral bells. Someone nearby has died. Someone important. Your wife freezes, cloth in hand, and glances toward the window. You hear more shouting. Someone says the name Sophocles. Another says plague. That word again, plague. You've heard it whispered lately more and more, in the market, near the temples. The priest who used to sit near the olive press stopped showing up 3 days ago. You feel your breath catch. Not just fever then, something more, something spreading. You try to speak, but your voice catches in your throat. It feels dry, cracked, like trying to cough up sand. Your wife squeezes your hand, but her expression is changing now, from worry to fear. Not for you, for them, for everyone. In the distance, more bells, more cries. You remember the old man who lived 2 doors down. He died last week, but they said it was age. Maybe it wasn't. You close your eyes again. The room is too warm now, too quiet. You begin to sweat again, and as sleep pulls you down into its slow spiral, one word circles your thoughts like a vulture. Plague. You wake up because someone is screaming outside. Not a scream of pain, a scream of warning. The kind of scream that splits the morning like a crack in the earth. Your eyes open, crusted, and burning. Your head pounds with a rhythm that feels carved by hammers. The fever has returned, a slow boil in your chest, behind your eyes, in the soft meat of your joints. You are soaked in your own sweat. Again. And the wool blanket clings to you like a fungus. Outside, feet thunder past your door. Voices rise in panic. You hear the word again, plague, and this time no one's whispering it. Your wife is already awake. She stands at the window, silent, unmoving. She doesn't look at you. That tells you everything you need to know. You sit up slowly, every movement a negotiation with your aching body. Your mouth tastes like metal and mildew. You reach for the jug of water. Empty again. Of course. Your wife hands you a fresh one without speaking. You drink, slowly. It tastes faintly of smoke and clay. She finally turns to you and says, "They've closed the gates." You blink. "The city gates?" She nods once. Her face is blank. That's not calm. That's what people wear when the panic is too big to feel all at once. You are locked inside Athens, with everyone else. No one in, no one out. And now you're very, very sure. It's not just a fever. It's the plague of Athens. You've heard the stories. Everyone has. The disease that melts the body, that strips the mind, that leaves corpses in the streets faster than they can be burned. You thought it was gone. A story from the edge of memory. But now it's here, in your neighborhood, at your door. You lie back down. Not because you want to, but because your legs say there's no other option. You can't feel your feet. That might be good or bad. You're too tired to decide. In the distance, A funeral procession begins. Except it isn't a procession. There's no ceremony, no priest, just two boys dragging a cart. On it are bodies wrapped in old linen and rope. One of the feet slips out. You don't look away fast enough. There are no funerals now. There are barely burials. The dead pile up faster than the living can pretend not to notice. And here you are, still alive, sort of. You begin to cough. It's not gentle. It tears through you, scraping the inside of your ribs. You feel something rise from your throat, thick and warm. You spit. It's red. Your wife sees it too. She says nothing, just walks out of the room. The silence afterward is louder than the screams outside. Later, she returns with something wrapped in linen, a boiled onion crushed with garlic, honey, and herbs. She puts it in your mouth like an offering to the gods. You chew. It burns. It might kill you faster. It might help. No one really knows anymore. You remember the old stories about Apollo, how he brought disease with his arrows, how he punished cities for arrogance, for impiety, for no reason at all. Maybe this is one of those times. Maybe it's just math. Too many people, too little understanding. A city built on beauty and ignorance. You drift. Time passes in splinters. Your thoughts break apart. You hear people crying, then laughing, then silence. You wake again. It's night. Your wife is gone. The room is darker than usual. The oil lamp is out. Your stomach gurgles, but you're too weak to move. You lie there, listening. And then you hear it. Scratching. From beneath the floor. It's soft, rhythmic. You listen, and it happens again. Scritch, scritch, pause, scritch, a rat, a dog. You remember the rumors about the dead being dumped into shallow graves, about the animals that come afterward. You try to speak. You can't. Your tongue is dry and heavy. You begin to sweat again, not from fever, from something colder. You pull the blanket tighter, not because it helps, but because it's all you have. The scratching stops. You're not sure if that's better or worse. You close your eyes. The smell of sickness has become familiar now, like old bread, like rusted iron, like the last breath before sleep. Somewhere far away, bells ring again, and this time they sound closer. Tomorrow, you think, the city might be quieter, Oh, quiet. But for now, you are still here. You wake up gasping, not from pain, though it's still there, coiled in your gut like a serpent, but from a dream.
You were standing in a crowd of faceless people, all of them weeping without sound, staring at you with hollow eyes. One reached toward you, and when you looked down, your hands were covered in blood. Not dramatic, not dripping, just red, dried, old, like it had been there a long time and you'd only now noticed. You sit up too fast. Your vision darkens at the edges, and the room spins gently like a lazy potter's wheel. You hold your head, wait for the world to settle. It doesn't. But you stop caring. Your wife is not in the room. The blanket next to you is rumpled, cold. The fire pit is unlit, a bed of black ash and cracked stone. Outside, the city hums with a strange silence. Not empty, just subdued. Like everyone is trying to move as little as possible. You rise, slowly. Your knees crack, your spine grinds. You walk like your skeleton belongs to someone else. The floor is gritty underfoot. Dust, dirt, maybe something worse. Your body is wrapped in linen, damp with sweat and bad dreams. You step outside. The air hits you like dry rot. The stench is heavier now, thick with smoke, human waste, and decay. You hear buzzing, flies, so many flies. There are no bodies in the street today. That's new. Maybe they were cleared in the night. Maybe people are hiding their dead now. Or maybe there are just fewer left to die. You wander toward the agora. Not because you want to, but because you don't know what else to do. Your body moves on some animal instinct. Go toward food, light, people. The basics. The market is half empty. Stalls stand abandoned, their goods rotting. Fish with glassy eyes lie beside wilted herbs and bruised fruit. No one seems to be buying. A few figures drift between the stands, silent, choosing at random, offering no coin. There is no bartering, no shouting. Just the soft shuffle of sandaled feet and the occasional dry cough. You pass a man slumped against a... She isn't breathing. You don't check her pulse. You don't need to. In this time, the body tells you everything. The stillness. The way the heat is gone from the skin. The way the mouth hangs open slightly, like it was trying to say something but ran out of time. You sit there for a long while. Maybe an hour, maybe more. She's still warm enough to seem asleep, but you know. You've seen it too many times these past weeks. This is how it ends. Not with a cry, not with a whisper, just stopping. You don't cry, you don't scream, you don't say goodbye. You just sit there as the light through the window slowly shifts from gold to gray. Eventually, your stomach turns. You throw up in the corner, just water this time, the body still trying to empty itself, still fighting something even now. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve and stand. There is a bucket of lye and ash in the corner, used for laundry, for scrubbing. You think about pouring it over her. That's what people do now. Burn the clothes, douse the dead in lime. Don't touch them. Don't kiss them goodbye. But you do touch her. One last time. You straighten her tunic. You fold her arms. You close her eyes, though they reopen once, slightly, stubbornly. You leave her there. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. The city is full. The pits are full. The priests are overwhelmed. The ferrymen who haul the dead are demanding bribes now. Sometimes they take bodies, sometimes they don't. You'll try. You step outside. The air smells of smoke and salted meat left too long in the sun. The city has begun to rot, and everyone knows it. People pass by with cloth over their faces or just looking down, as if shame can protect them from infection. You pass a child coughing red into their hands. You pass a man digging a trench in front of his house with a broken plate. You reach the old burial yard. There are no priests, just a pile. You stand there for a moment, watching two men stack bodies like firewood. Arms and legs poke from the pile like broken branches. The flies are loud. A few dogs linger on the edges, too afraid or smart to come closer. You walk up. The men look at you. You explain, quietly, about your wife. They ask for coin. You give them what you have. It's not much. They nod. We'll come tonight, one says. You don't ask when. You don't ask if. You just turn and walk back home. When you arrive, you find that someone has already entered. The door is open wider than you left it. Inside, there's a man, another neighbor, standing in your room looking at her body. You shout. He jumps. "I thought you were gone," he says. "Everyone said you were dead too."
He doesn't apologize. He doesn't leave. He's looking at the corner, at the small box where you kept your coin. You don't have the strength to fight him. You just stare. Eventually, he leaves. He doesn't take the box. Maybe it was empty. Maybe he just didn't want to touch anything anymore. You close the door, and then you light a fire. A small one, just enough to warm your hands. The house feels bigger now, emptier, quieter. Her absence is a sound you can hear. You think about the physicians, the ones who left the city when the plague began, the ones who stayed and died trying to explain it. Some said it was divine punishment. Others said it came from Ethiopia, from the east, from the gods, from the sea. No one really knows, and no one is coming to save you. You eat a handful of barley from a cracked bowl. It tastes like sand and grief. You lie down on the mat next to her one last time. Your eyes burn, but no tears come. You drift off, half sleeping, half fevered. The fire flickers, the wind shifts, and in the corner of your mind, a new thought rises. You survived, so far, but now what? You wake to the sound of shovels. Not in your home, but close. Metal against dry earth. Thump, scrape, thump. The rhythm of survival, or of hiding something. You lie on the mat, staring at the ceiling beams. The fire burned out hours ago. The room is gray with early morning, cold but not unbearable. You're used to discomfort now. It's part of the furniture, like the draft in the corner or the straw poking through the mat into your spine. Her body is gone. You blink slowly. At first, you think maybe it was a dream. Maybe she never died. Maybe it's your mind playing tricks. Then you see the linen scraps, the faint red stain where her head rested, the door left open just slightly, and the silence. You feel no gratitude, just emptiness. The cart must have come in the night. The men you paid, or someone else. There's no note, no explanation, but she's gone now. That's enough. You sit up. It takes effort. Your body is stiff and sore like old leather. But the fever is lower now. Your sweat has cooled. You're weak, but alive. It almost feels insulting. You eat the last of the barley. Dry, chewy, almost flavorless. Then you drink from the jug of water. It's warm, dusty, but it's water. That alone feels like luxury. Outside, the street is quiet, not silent, but thinned out. You walk slowly through the alley, past shuttered homes and empty stalls. Flies cluster in corners. A cat darts across the path, too thin to chase. You reach the agora, or what's left of it. There's no market anymore, just a few people sitting in the sun, not speaking, staring into nothing. One man is crying, not sobbing, just letting the tears run down his face, eyes open, mouth closed. You hear someone cough behind you. You don't turn around. You pass the temple of Asclepius. It's barricaded now. The priests have either died or locked themselves inside. Incense still burns at the base of the steps, but no one dares go closer. You see a rat run across the altar, knock over a bowl, and disappear. You don't even flinch. You're beyond flinching now,
On your way back, home, you spot something strange, a group of men in armor. Not hoplites, not citizens. These are young, thin, pale. Soldiers in name only. They're dragging something behind them. A man, bound, sick. Someone yells, "He was stealing from the temple." You stop. The man on the ground is begging, barely breathing, his face swollen, eyes wild. He's clearly sick. Maybe plague, maybe worse. The soldiers dump him near a wall and leave him there. You stand frozen. You want to walk on. You want to forget it, but you can't help it. You walk toward him. The man blinks at you, then closes his eyes. He's not dead yet, but he will be. Soon. You think of your wife. You kneel beside him, tear off a strip of your tunic, and pour a few drops of water from your jug onto his lips. He swallows. Barely. That's all you can do. You leave him there. You can't take him in. You'd die, you know it. But you did something. That counts. Maybe. Back home, you sit by the fire pit. You don't light it. Instead, you sit in the fading light and watch shadows stretch across the floor. You think about the gods. Not just Asclepius, but all of them. Zeus, Apollo, Hades. Are they watching? Are they laughing? Are they arguing over your fate like a piece of theater? You think of Socrates, how he said no man should fear death, because no man knows what comes after. You think, Socrates never had to bury his wife with no priest. You close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come easily anymore, it comes in pieces, like broken glass. You lie there, drifting in and out. Every sound wakes you. Every silence scares you more. And just as you start to fall into real sleep, deep, aching sleep, you hear it. A knock, 3 knocks, slow, firm. You open your eyes. The door creaks. The door creaks wider, slowly, as if uncertain whether to open fully or retreat. You sit up, heart pounding, but not from fear, from confusion, from sheer disbelief that someone, anyone, is knocking at your door now, when all Athens seems to be crumbling into silence. A figure steps inside. A boy, thin as a reed, with dust on his face and a scroll clutched tightly in his hands. He can't be older than 14. His eyes, dark and alert, fix on you. "You're the scribe," he says quietly. It's not a question. You nod. You're not sure if that's still true. You haven't written anything in days, maybe weeks, but that's what people once called you. The scribe of Kerameikos, the man who wrote letters for the grieving, who copied verses for merchants too busy to read. "Then this is for you," the boy says, and holds out the scroll. You take it carefully. His fingers brush yours, hot, feverish. He's sick. He steps back before you can speak. "Wait," you say. "Who sent this?" But the boy only shakes his head and stumbles away into the street. You watch him disappear down the alley. He walks like someone with no destination, only distance. You close the door, sit back down, and open the scroll. It's not signed. But the handwriting is familiar, your wife's. You recognize the curves of the letters instantly, even though the lines tremble.
It must have been written weeks ago, maybe before she fell ill. Maybe she'd planned to leave it for you, to be delivered in case she didn't make it. You read, "My beloved." If this reaches you, it means I have already slipped beyond the veil of waking. Don't look for me. I know how deeply that urge will claw into your bones. But let me go gently. Let me go as you once promised, with love, not with suffering. You must live. That is not a plea. It is a command. Let grief pass through you like the wind through linen, and when it does, write again. The world needs the words of someone who has felt pain and still dared to describe the sunrise. Do not waste your life burying mine. The world may fall, but words endure. You taught me that. So live, write, even if no one reads it, especially if no one reads it. All my light, your soul's twin. You dad, don't cry. Not yet. Instead, you unfold the linen bundle you had used as her shroud. You lay the scroll inside it carefully, gently, as if placing her voice to rest. You feel something shift inside you, like the first breath after drowning. You light a small fire, not for warmth, not for food, just light, a defiance. And for the first time in days, you pick up the charcoal. You find a scrap of papyrus left over from your last commission, a letter you never delivered. On the back, you begin to write. Not for a merchant, not for a mourner, just for you. You write about the boy with fever and the man left to die by the wall. You write about the market turned graveyard. You write about love wrapped in linen and voices that echo through silence. And you write about hope, not because you feel it, but because it deserves to exist on the page, even if only in ink. You write until the fire dies. Then you sleep, and this time your dreams are quiet. But beyond your home, Athens is still dying. In the distance, a new funeral pyre is lit. Smoke curls into the sky like a question mark. And somewhere beneath the city's silence, something begins to stir. Something not born of sickness or sorrow, but of survival. You wake up to the smell of a vinegar. Not wine, not food, just vinegar. So sharp it slices the inside of your nose before you've even opened your eyes. And when you do, you realize someone has smeared it beneath them. Your neighbor, Cleon, stands over you, holding a clay bowl with trembling hands. "Breathe it in," he mutters. "Kills the plague, they say." You stare at him. He stares on back, eyes wild, hair matted to his forehead with sweat. You're not even sure he recognizes you. He just stands there holding that bowl like it's a charm, his only shield against a death he cannot outrun. This is the new reality, when a man greets you with vinegar instead of bread. You sit up slowly, bones aching, as though the bed has turned to stone overnight. You look around your home. Nothing's been moved. No one's broken in. And yet everything feels changed. Your wife's scroll lies beside the ash of last night's fire. You don't dare touch it again today. Her voice still rings too loudly in your head. Outside, the streets hum not with people, but with rot. You step out and see it. Bodies. So many more now. Wrapped, unwrapped. Some half covered with what looks like sailcloth or animal skins.
Others simply curled into themselves like they meant to rise again. The city has stopped burying them properly. The graves are full. The funeral workers, if they still exist, are either burning corpses in piles or simply leaving them in alleyways like broken amphorae. You press the edge of your hymation to your nose, but it doesn't help. The stink clings to the city now, sweet and sour, like old meat soaked in wine. You walk slowly, not because you're weak, but because speed has become suspicious. If you rush, people think you're running from illness, or worse, to it. Cleon trails behind you with his vinegar like a priest blessing the air. You pass what used to be a shrine to Hermes. Now it's a water post turned dry. You remember when children splashed there in the summer. Now, even the flies avoid it. You turn the corner near the Agora. It used to be the heart of Athens. Now it's hollow. The market stalls have been stripped down to their bones, just wooden frames, the produce long gone, the grain taken by those strong enough to carry sacks, the wine amphorae smashed in frustration or looted. The only thing left is a single caged chicken squawking at nothing. You step around a body slumped beside the marble steps of a broken fountain. No one bothers to check if they're alive anymore. If they are, they'll move eventually. If not, well, no one's collecting them now. You head toward the old philosopher's corner, a quiet place where men once argued about virtue and citizenship and the meaning of the cosmos. Now, it's a silence so thick you can feel it clinging to your skin. But one voice cuts through. "Plague is not punishment," a man yells, standing barefoot on a broken stool. You pause. His hair is white, but he isn't old. His eyes burn with something beyond fever. It is nature. Random. No, God has cursed us. We cursed ourselves by gathering like cattle, by living too closely. This is the cost of our glory. He looks directly at you. "Tell them," he says, jabbing a finger toward you. "You're the scribe. You know how to make it beautiful. Make them understand." You don't answer. Instead, you look past him toward the Acropolis. Still standing, still watching. And yet, even the gods seem distant now, absent even. Their temples are empty, their altars blackened with abandoned offerings. Gold, silver, oil, honey. None of it saved a single soul. Maybe that man is right. Maybe the gods are silent, because they were never listening. You continue walking, away from the crowd that doesn't exist, away from questions without answers. By midday, you find yourself back in your old workshop. It's half burnt, half looted, but the writing desk is still intact. A papyrus scroll lies open, something you'd started before the sickness. You trace the ink with a fingertip. It's a poem, not a good one, but it speaks of olive trees swaying in the breeze and the laughter of girls in springtime. You almost don't recognize the man who wrote it. You sit, take up a stylus, and write something new. Not a poem, a list, the names of the dead you remember. You start with your wife. Then the child who used to bring bread. Then the priestess who sang too loudly at festivals. Then your brother. Then your daughter. You write them down like you're pinning them to the world, refusing to let them drift off into silence. The list grows long. By the time dusk falls, The page is almost full. You light a candle stub and keep writing outside. You hear footsteps, not frantic, not fearful, measured. You open the door and see a man. Well-fed, clean, wearing a red himation you've only seen on officials. He looks at you like he's found something valuable. "You're the scribe," he says. Again, not a question. "Yes," you answer. He nods. "We need record keepers for the dead, for the city. The council is reduced, but we still function, barely." He doesn't say it, but it's there in his face. Too many of the educated are gone. You, filthy and grieving, are now qualified by survival. He holds out a scroll with a seal. "You'll come tomorrow, to the Nix, if you live through the night." You take the scroll. And as he walks away, you realize something quietly terrifying. You are being summoned. Athens, gasping and broken, is still trying to survive. And now it wants your hand. It wants your words. You close the door behind you, sit in the flickering candlelight, and for the first time the city feels like it needs you more than you need it. You lie down that night, not with peace, but with purpose. Tomorrow you will go to the Pnyx, where democracy once shouted. Now it whispers, and the whisper is calling your name. The morning air bites. Not with cold, but with a stillness so complete it feels like the world itself is holding its breath. Even the crows, usually bold enough to squabble over the dead, are quiet. You rise with the first light, scroll still clutched in your hand, the official seal unbroken. The wax glimmers dull red in the dawn. You stare at it for a long while. There was a time when this would have stirred pride, being summoned to the Pnyx, called upon by the remnants of the Boule to serve the city, to record its days. Now, it feels like you've been asked to write the obituary of a civilization still twitching. You dress slowly, a clean himation, if clean can be defined as not soaked in fever sweat or dust. You knot it at your shoulder with a strip of worn leather. The act feels ceremonial, like arming for war. Outside, the streets haven't changed. Plague hasn't lifted. If anything, it's grown hungrier. You step carefully over the body of a dog, its ribs sharp under stretched skin. A little boy watches you from behind a barrel, eyes wide, no older than 6. His face is streaked with ash, as if he's rubbed it there for protection. You nod to him. He says nothing, just presses back into the wood, vanishing into shadow. The Pnyx isn't far, but the journey feels long. You pass broken walls covered in charcoal messages, pleas to the gods, warnings, names scratched beside smeared handprints. Some people have started calling it the Wall of Last Words. You reach the foot of the hill. Normally, you'd hear voices, speeches, the buzzing of a free people debating their fate. Now, only wind. You climb the steps to the Nix with no escort, no fanfare. No guards wait at the top. No scribes with ledgers. Just 3 men seated on the carved benches, spaced far apart like statues meant to avoid one another. The man in red, the one who summoned you, nods as you approach. "You came," he says. "I said I would," you answer. The other 2 glance at each other. One is gaunt, the skin around his eyes raw. The other smells faintly of cloves, trying to mask the sickness with spice. The man in red speaks again. You'll record what's left. Names, numbers, decrees. If we must burn the dead, you'll mark who was burned. If we reopen the gates, you'll write why. If we close the temples, you'll write who protested. You blink. All of it, you ask. All of it, he says. If we fall, someone must remember how we did. If we survive, someone must tell how. You feel the weight of it settle on your shoulders like another hymation. Heavy, inevitable. They hand you a fresh scroll, unmarked, untouched. It's the cleanest thing you've seen in weeks. Begin, says the man in red. And you do. You begin with the date, such as it is, and the names of the counselors present. Then their decrees, short, hesitant, lacking their usual force. You write of the fires burning in the south quarter, of the merchant ships still refusing to dock, of the rumor that Sparta may yet exploit Athens' weakness, though their own messengers have stopped coming. And then you write this. The city continues, fewer now than before, but not silent. Not yet. You don't know why you write that. It's not an official statement. No one told you to, but it slips out of you like a breath you've held too long. When the meeting ends, they nod to you, not like peers, but like men handing off a burden. And just like that, you are the voice of Athens. The only voice, it seems, that still knows how to write. You return to your ruined home. But it no longer feels like the place you belong. Instead, you find yourself drawn to the workshop again. It's become your temple. A place where ink and parchment have become your new offerings to gods who won't answer. But even in this, there's purpose. You spend the next days cataloging names, not just the dead, the missing, the insane, the ones who walk in circles whispering to themselves, the ones who sit motionless in the sun for hours, their eyes empty. You write down the names of healers who tried and failed, of midwives who now prepare bodies instead of delivering babies, of priests who stayed, and those who fled. Each night, you sleep beside your scrolls like they are family. Sometimes you dream of her, your wife. You hear her singing in the courtyard, her voice cutting through the stench of death like a blade of clean air. You wake, and the sound is gone, but the memory lingers, and in it you find fuel. You begin another list. The things Athens has lost. Theaters, hymns, weddings, the laughter of market girls. But on another scroll you begin a different list. Things that remain. Courage. Bread. Candles. The sky. The stories. That last one. You underline, because you realize something strange. While the city dies, the story lives, and if you keep writing, truly writing, not just names, but feelings, thoughts, moments, then maybe, just maybe, Athens won't vanish entirely. Maybe it will echo one evening near dusk. A knock, not frantic, not official, just soft. You open your door to the boy, the one from behind the barrel. His cheeks are cleaner now. He holds a lump of barley bread, unchewed. He looks up at you. "Can you write my mother's name?" he asks. Your throat tightens. Yes, you whisper. You bring him in, hand him a reed stylus. He spells it slowly. You write it with care. He stares at the letters like they are a spell. Then he asks, "Will people know her name when I'm gone?" You kneel beside him. "If I do my work," you say, "they will know all of us." The boy nods, leaves the bread, and goes. You sit there for a long time, staring at that name, and you understand. You're not just writing a record, you're building a monument, not of marble, of memory. Athens may fall, but its story will not while your hands still work, and your heart still remembers, and the candle still burns. You dip the stylus again, and continue. You wake before the sun now. Your body has learned the rhythm of silence and candlelight, of scraping reeds on parchment, of coughing in the distance and cries that sound more like whispers. There is little left in your home. You've sold what you could for ink and bread. The rest you burned in desperation or grief, you don't remember which. But the scrolls are growing. What started as names has become something else, more than history, less than poetry. A living record. You've written stories of women who wrapped their babies in temple robes, hoping it would trick the gods into mercy. You've described the boy who paints birds on walls, though he's never seen one fly. You recorded the words of the soldier who lit the funeral pyres, one body at a time, reciting prayers he barely believed in. Every name becomes a memory. Every death, a paragraph. Every moment, ink. Sometimes people come now. They don't knock. They wait outside until you notice them. They bring you stories. They ask you to write their mother's laughter, their brother's jokes, the way their father's hands smelled of olives and ash. You don't refuse them. This is what you've become. Not a scribe, not anymore. A witness. One afternoon, it rains. Hard. You race to cover the scrolls with oiled cloth, heart pounding as the wind tears at your door. Water pours down the walls. A crack opens in the ceiling. You curse, scramble to move your work to higher shelves. But then, something strange happens. Laughter. Outside. You open the door and see children dancing in the street. Not many, 5 and maybe 6, naked and wild, splashing through the puddles like they're playing in the sea. Mothers lean from windows, shaking heads, but not stopping them. Old men sit on broken stairs, faces tipped to the sky, mouths open. You step out, the rain washing over you, and for a moment, Athens is alive. Not just breathing, laughing. You don't try to write that moment down, not yet. You just live in it. That night, a man visits. He is tall, clean. His hymation has been stitched recently, which in itself is a kind of miracle. He carries no scrolls, but you recognize him, not from the city, from the walls, from war. He gives you a soldier's nod and sits without being asked. "You're the one who writes," he says. You nod. "I was told you'd be the last." You flinch at the word, last. It feels like a curse now. He continues. "I came from Piraeus, the docks." Your ears perk. "The ships?" you ask. He nods slowly. "There's movement, not just merchant vessels, warships from the north." "Sparta?" you ask. "Worse?"
he says. Thebes. You curse under your breath. They know we're weak, he says. The world smells death on us, and they are coming. You stare at who am I need to write this down. No, he says. You need to prepare. We can't defend the city, not with a skeleton army and children pretending to be guards. What do you want from me? He places something on the table, a single iron seal. It bears no name, but its symbol is unmistakable. The Owl of Athena. Give them a story, he says, one that makes them think twice. You frown. A story? He leans in. One last tale of Athens, before the end. A story that echoes through time and makes cowards hesitate. You sit back. It's insane. But it might work. The Thebans are human, like everyone else, susceptible to fear, to myth. You've been writing history. Now you must write legend. You spend 3 days crafting it. No sleep. Little food. You write by oil lamp and fading sun and burning scrap wood. You call it the last stand of the city of owls. In it, Athens has not fallen. In it, the gods have returned. In it, the dead rise from funeral pyres and take up arms. In it, the walls bleed salt and fire. In it, every child becomes a warrior, and every tear a weapon. You forge it like a weapon. Word by word. Sentence by sentence. Then you make copies. As many as your ink and hands will allow, and the soldier takes them, not to generals, to merchants, sailors, spies, whisperers. Let them carry it. Let them spread it. Let the world believe. Athens still has teeth. On the 4th day, a small crowd gathers in the marketplace. Not to buy or trade, there's nothing left, but to hear. You are asked to speak, for the first time. You step onto a broken crate. Your hands tremble. You hold no scroll, only memory and voice. You begin. This is the story of Athens, the city that could not be killed. And you speak of heroes and sacrifices, of love and plague, of mourning and laughter, of women who lit fires while men fell, of songs sung in the dark, of a city that remembers. The people listen. Some weep, some close their eyes. All are still. Later, as you sit alone, one last scroll before you, you think of your wife again and your child. You think of the temples, the theater, the olive groves on the hill, and you write one final line for the night. If this city falls, it will not fall quietly. It will fall as it lived, brilliantly, chaotically, bravely, and beautifully. You blow out the candle and sleep with a smile for the first time in weeks. Morning comes not with sunlight, but with a distant rumble, not thunder, drums. You sit up straight. Your heart pounds before your feet even touch the ground. Outside, birds scatter from rooftops. People have gathered, silent and tight together like a single organism, breathing, trembling, watching the horizon. The Thebans have arrived. Their banners flap in the wind, dull red and black, horses stamping, spears gleaming like teeth in the morning light. They outnumber what remains of your city by thousands. The gates are barely standing. There are no generals, only elders and a few guards clutching rusted swords. But the people do not run. They stand, and so do you. You walk among them, scroll in one hand, the iron owl seal in the other. You take position near the front, not because you're brave, but because if you're to die, you will die looking into the eyes of the ones who came to erase your city. But the attack never comes. Instead, a lone rider approaches the wall. He stops within shouting distance. He lifts a scroll, one of yours. Then he bows, not deep, not long, but real, and he turns back. The Theban army watches, puzzled, restless, but they do not move forward. Not yet. Something has changed. Your story has reached them. They know now. This is not just a ruined city. It is a memory with teeth, a people made of flame and ink. That night, as fires burn for warmth, not war, you are summoned by a woman. She wears armor, but it is not metal. It is leather, patched and faded. Her hair is braid, with olive leaves. Her eyes are darker than midnight, and yet full of morning. You recognize her. She has no name you can remember, but she has stood beside you in the square, passed you bread when you fainted, whispered stories of her fallen sisters. You wrote something they fear, she says. You nod. She leans close. Now write something they love. You blink. I don't understand. You gave them a reason not to invade. Now give them a reason to believe. And so begins your final task. You stop writing about death. You start writing about tomorrow, of gardens returning, of new plays being written on crumbling stages, of children painting new gods on cracked walls, of love found among ruins. You describe a festival yet to come, where candles float on the river and music rises again from every corner of the Acropolis. You give Athens a future, not as a city of power, but as a city of meaning, and slowly others join you. A boy who draws, a blind woman who sings, a teacher with no students who now reads aloud to anyone who will listen. Each person becomes a page in a new chapter, not history. Hope. The Thebans never invade, not because they cannot, but because the heart of Athens, bare and wounded, is more powerful than a fortress. They set up camp outside. Trade begins. Words pass between enemies who no longer know why they hated each other. The story changed everything, because you wrote it. Years pass. You grow older, your hair thins, your back curves, your hands tremble, but your words remain steady. They're etched into walls, sung in halls, whispered to newborns. The last scroll you ever write is short, just one line. They thought we were finished, but we became something they could not kill, a memory that chooses to live. You set down the red, it aed. You close your eyes and let go. Epilogue. No one knows exactly where your bones rest. Some say beneath the old theater, others by the olive tree that still grows stubbornly through cracked marble. But your words, they survived, copied, carried, translated, A child in Rome would one day read about the city of owls. A monk in Alexandria would quote a line about love surviving plague. A traveler in Jerusalem would speak of the woman who asked for stories, not vengeance. And somewhere, centuries later, someone lights a candle, opens a scroll, and begins to read. This is the story of Athens, the city that could not be killed. And for a moment, the city lives again.